This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, Emily, and I wanted to share it on the channel. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and this is something that happened to me earlier this year. One night, my husband and I were sitting on the porch smoking a cigarette. It was around 9 p.m. We live deep in the woods, right off a stretch of highway between two interstate exits. We were just looking up at the stars, enjoying the quiet night and the sound of crickets as we sat around the fire. Then I heard something and hushed my husband so we could listen more closely. All of a sudden, we both heard what sounded like a woman screaming. It wasn't like anything I'd ever heard before. Between her blood-chilling screams, we could hear her crying out for help. My husband and I looked at each other, frozen. The screams grew louder and closer until we finally saw a figure running along the grassy median of the highway, heading in our direction. Our house sits a good distance back from the road, but with the fire blazing and the neighbors' Christmas lights still glowing, we could see her clearly, which meant she could see us too. I rushed to grab my phone to call 911 while my husband slipped inside to throw on his jacket and shoes. I begged him not to go out there, but he ignored me. Just then, a red car came barreling down the highway and pulled over near the woman. Because of a ditch, the driver couldn't cross into the field where she was, but I could hear his voice. He was screaming threats, calling her awful names, and it looked like he was throwing things out of the window at her. The woman spotted him and immediately bolted straight toward our yard. By the time she reached us, I was already on the phone with the police. My husband ran out to meet her and asked if she was okay. Through gasps, she explained that she had accepted a ride from this man. Halfway down the road, he began acting strange and refused to let her out of the car. He drove past her stop, and when she glanced into the back seat, she saw a roll of duct tape. Fearing for her life, she jumped out of the moving vehicle and ran. My husband brought her into the house while I updated 911. Under the lights inside, we could see how badly hurt she was. She was bleeding in several spots, covered in road rash, and shaking uncontrollably. She told us that before she escaped, the man had threatened to kill her. We locked the doors and stood by the window, waiting for the police. That was when there was a loud bang on our front door. The man was outside. He yelled that he had seen her run into our house and that no one inside could protect her. I shouted back that he needed to leave immediately, that the police were on their way. His reply made my blood run cold. "Go ahead and call them. They won't get here in time." He began pounding and kicking at our door, trying to break it down. The woman was sobbing and begging us not to let him in. I grabbed a large kitchen knife while my husband retrieved his gun. Our door was solid, but our windows were not. If he wanted in badly enough, he could have gotten inside. Finally, flashing lights filled our yard. A squad car pulled up, followed by two more. As soon as the man saw them, he bolted into the woods. Some officers rushed in to help the injured woman, while others took off after the man. After nearly 2 hours of searching, they found him hiding in the forest. That night was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. I'm grateful the police arrived before the man tried to break through a window, because if it had come to that, my husband might have been forced to shoot him. Thankfully, it didn't escalate to that point.
This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, Daniel, and I wanted to share it on the channel. I live in a small, tight-knit community where everyone participates in a neighborhood watch program. We even have a group chat that includes every single resident, about 65 people in total. Normally, it's nothing dramatic. People post things like, "Hey, there's going to be a storm tomorrow," or "Someone left their kid's tricycle in the yard." It keeps us connected and makes life easier for families. Honestly, I always thought it was a wonderful system. But about a year ago, everything changed. It started when someone reported seeing a strange vehicle parked on the side of the road. Since we all knew each other, it was immediately clear this car didn't belong to anyone in the neighborhood. At first, we thought maybe it was just a passerby admiring the houses. After all, our community is fairly well off. Still, it felt suspicious, so we reported it in the chat and decided to keep an eye out. The very next night, the same car appeared in the exact same spot. That's when things became serious. One of the parents, Sam, decided to walk up and ask the driver what they were doing. But before he could get close, the vehicle sped off in a hurry. Very suspicious. At that point, we were all on high alert, worried especially for the safety of our kids. The following night, the car returned, this time in a different area of the neighborhood. Someone posted about it in the chat, and Sam confirmed he saw it too. He warned everyone not to approach, but said he was on his way. Sam was determined to find out what was going on. This time, a few people even started live streaming in the chat so everyone could see. It felt strange, unsettling, but almost surreal, like watching a show. Then, in the dark, with little street lighting, we saw Sam get attacked. He went down hard, beaten viciously by whoever was inside that car. The chat exploded into panic. People called the cops, but the live stream ended abruptly. Now it was official. We had a violent stranger in our neighborhood. The police couldn't do much. No one had gotten a clear look at the license plate, and the video quality was too poor to identify the attacker. It was terrifying. We decided to organize ourselves. Splitting into 3 groups, the plan was simple. If the car came back, we'd approach it with multiple people and immediately call the police. Weeks went by without any sightings. We started to think maybe it was over. But then, one night, around 6 p.m., someone spotted the car again and sent a photo in the chat. Everyone scrambled, ready to execute the plan. Before anyone could move in, though, another message appeared. A second car was spotted elsewhere, then a third, then a fourth. Suddenly, there were 4 suspicious cars scattered across the neighborhood. Our plan fell apart instantly. And then it escalated. Against everyone's warnings, someone approached one of the vehicles. Gunshots rang out. They were hit in the leg. Pure chaos broke out in the chat. People locked their doors, called the police, and huddled with their families. This was a gated community. How were these people even getting in? That's when some of the kids in the neighborhood pointed out something chilling. One of our neighbors, Lucas, hadn't spoken in the chat for weeks. The kids were convinced he had something to do with it. At first, we brushed it off. Lucas was well-liked. Why would he betray us? But the kids were right. After a long police investigation, Lucas was caught inside one of the suspicious vehicles. He had been orchestrating a massive robbery, an Ocean's 11-style heist. Because he was in the group chat, he knew which families had money, where valuables were kept, and when people would or wouldn't be home. He had coordinated multiple vehicles to overwhelm the neighborhood and hit every single house in one night. The investigation dragged on and on, but in the end, the robbery failed. Lucas and his accomplices were arrested, and the neighborhood went back to normal. Still, it's disturbing to think that someone we trusted, someone we thought was a friend, had been planning to rob us all along. Thank you to Daniel for sending this chilling story. If you have a story, send it in and it might be featured next.
This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers, Rachel, and I wanted to share it on the channel. I live with my wife in a 2-story home, and we've been here for almost 5 years now. But I'll never forget the terrifying thing that happened last year. The day had been completely normal. My wife and I both went to work, came home later that evening, and had a quiet night together. When it was finally time to go to bed, we headed upstairs to our bedroom. After climbing into bed, my wife remembered she had forgotten something downstairs. I don't remember exactly what it was, but she told me she'd be right back. By this point, all the lights in the house were already off. Only about a minute later, I heard her rushing back up the stairs. She burst into the room with a panicked expression on her face and told me she thought she had seen a man in the kitchen. At first, I didn't believe her. She hadn't turned on any lights, and it was pitch black. How could she be so sure she saw someone? It just sounded impossible. Still, I told her I would go check. She warned me to be careful, but I wasn't too worried. I left the bedroom, walked down the hallway, and started down the stairs. Strangely, I didn't turn on any lights, almost like I wanted to prove to myself there was nothing there. At the bottom, everything seemed quiet. I didn't see anyone, and I didn't hear anything suspicious either. But as I moved toward the kitchen, I thought I heard something faint. The sound seemed to be coming from the basement. The basement door was in the kitchen, usually shut tight. I flipped on a light, stared at the door, and listened. Yes, there was definitely movement down there. My stomach sank. Maybe my wife really had seen someone. Feeling nervous, I slowly approached and opened the basement door. The stairwell was completely dark, with only a single dim bulb hanging at the bottom. I flicked the switch, but it barely lit the space. From what I could see, there was no one in sight. I called out, asking if anyone was down there. Of course, there was no answer. I decided to check for myself. Step by step, I moved cautiously down the staircase. The silence was heavy, but halfway down, I heard another sound. This one was different. Close. Too close. It wasn't coming from the bottom of the stairs. It was coming from behind me. That's when I realized the noise was coming from beneath the staircase itself. Like many basements, ours was cluttered with boxes and old furniture. The space beneath the stairs made a perfect hiding place. I turned my head just enough to look, and in the faint glow of the light, I was certain I saw the outline of someone crouched under there. I didn't panic. Instead, I slowly backed up the stairs, closed the basement door behind me, and immediately called the police. Then I went back upstairs, locked our bedroom door, and told my wife what I had seen. We sat there in silence, waiting. Every creak of the house made me jump, terrified the intruder would come upstairs, but he never did. About 10 minutes later, the police arrived. They searched the basement and found the man still hiding behind the stairs. The scariest part wasn't that he had been in our house. It was that we had no idea how he got in or how long he had been there. The basement hadn't been used in days. There were no broken windows or signs of forced entry. The police thought he might have slipped in while we were outside, or maybe through an unlocked door we didn't notice. We'll never really know for sure. Thank you to Rachel for sending this terrifying story. If you have a story, send it in and it might be featured next.
Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to give the video a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a terrifying tale. See you in the next one.